Hey guys, it's Daniel Faust. I'm one of your hosts and Learn and Live broadcasting across the world now with our fancy logos and products and whatnot. This week, we jump into the actual battle room, the superhero battle room. And we're going to do that once a month with 5 specific veterans that are thriving from war hero to superhero. So today, we got Ben Kilroy. Do I pronounce that right, Ben?
You almost had a little bit of an accent of an R there. You got to go low and you got to say Killoy. You got to go low with it.
Yeah, I got to go low with it. Kilroy. I just want to go Kilroy.
Yep, there you go. Everybody wants a Kilroy. Not the person from World War II that was a graffiti person. That's like a entirely different thing.
Woo! Well, there we go. So we are going to go talk about Ben's war hero to superhero story from his highs to his lows and what transformation that he ever made. So Ben, if you just want to start your war hero story, what service were you in? How long? Those type of facts.
So I'm a Marine Corps veteran, husband, father to 3. I have 3 kids, 8, 5, and 3. And I live just in Madison, Wisconsin, in Wisconsin, south of Madison. Got my sentence structure there messed up. I got out in 2007, got hooked on the civilian program, which says that you get a job, you get a degree, and your life should be pretty good if you follow the American dream of getting a house, starting a family, getting debt, and getting car payments. Like most people that follow that dream, you find that dream does not deliver the happiness that it promises. So for me, I lost myself for about 10 years on that program. And it wasn't until about 2014 that I went to a seminar, and it was on leadership. And that really ignited my inner person who I was. And it essentially brought out what the Marine Corps had left behind. And I never really left it. I had forgotten about it. And that really ignited the road to where I am today, the self-growth journey, just being a self-growth junkie almost. But now, as a host of Military Veteran Dad podcast, I take the pain that I went through and my mess, and I help other dads get through their mess.
Well, let's go visit that pain for a bit, because that's the thing that the people are looking for. So people get out, they go to transitional assistance, or they just totally screw it and they get out of the service and whatnot. Why was it so painful to get out, and where did that hit?
It wasn't, I would say, painful. I would say, if anything, I got really lucky. I was only unemployed for about 2 weeks. I got a decent paying job. I got an apartment. I was out on my own, but for probably, it took me at least 5 years, because it wasn't until when I turned 30 that I went and figured out what was really missing in my life. So those first 4 years, I was in pain, but I wasn't even acknowledging it, or wasn't even aware of it. It wasn't even on my radar. I just kind of felt flat, would be the best way to describe it. But when I turned 30, I hit this wall of where I felt like that when I reached the end of my life, there was not going to be anybody, like, it was this reflection that no one's going to be at the end of my life to reflect that Ben Killoy mattered on this earth. And I was like, I just don't think I don't have anybody in my life that's going to care. And that hit me really hard. I had 1 daughter already, and when that whole idea of holding your child in your hands, all of that goes with it. And it was a really lonely place. For that first pain was really the recognition that at the path that I'm on, it's going to be a lonely one and a long one. And it took me someone asking me a question of, if you want a result that you've never had, then you need to start doing something you've never done. And for me, that was friends. And I have just never been good at talking to people. Every person was that high school girl in high school that was going to say no. And so I just avoided that feeling at all costs, even if it doesn't matter, girl or boy, everybody was the same. They were all crossed off. But then I was like, okay, so friendships is my pain. How do I get through it? How do I start having friends? And I essentially just started the simplest place. I started with dads at the park. There was always dads there with their kids. They looked like they wanted to say hello, but I was always too shy. And then one day I just said, you know what, today's the day. Said hello. And turns out they were waiting for someone to say hello to. And the third one was a veteran up in Madison, still friends with him today. And I was like, whoa, I just talked to 3 people. And the third one out of 3, was a veteran that I could connect with. And I was like, I wonder what happens if you keep going. And so that one step to talking dads at the park is really how I started closing that gap in their friendship, creating a network, creating a community. And that community essentially then helped open the doors to where I am now, at having a podcast, to being a guy that loves talking about fatherhood, and then helping other military dads. All that came from because I started creating a community of friends that I felt comfortable to talk to. And then I just kept talking to more and more people.
Wow. So you basically were the wallflower and you just didn't get off the wall until 30 years old. So you just survived in the Marines and survived in the civilian sector and you just talked if you had to. But you
Correct.
were, it sounds like you were emotionally, spiritually, mentally, maybe even maybe physiologically just landlocked. And it was just that park that opened up the floodgates.
And that's a very good way to describe it, because for most, like, even if I go back to my high school days, I was always being someone else to fit in. And when you have the mindset of fitting in, you lose a little bit of yourself with every one of those nudges to fit in.
Mhm.
And in boot camp, I was trying not to be seen. I was trying to be in the shadows at boot camp because there was plenty of people to take the drill instructor's attention. So I did not want that attention. And so then when I was stationed in Okinawa for 3 years, I fit into, like, because you're on the same island, so you have kind of the same, like, we're all stuck on this island together. But at the same time, I really still didn't find myself, where I didn't feel comfortable being myself. I would kind of like be a different person depending on who I was around, and that kind of shift in my personality to fit in followed me for so long, because I would no longer know who I was over time. And it's that identity loss that you're like, when you look in the mirror, you're like, who is this guy? Because he's just a bunch of different, he's Baskin Robbins. And that's not what
Mhm.
everybody wants to be. No one wants to be Baskin Robbins. They just want one really delicious flavor of ice cream and they want to own that. And that wasn't me. And so it took that dad's the park. And one thing that whole thing, like, there's something that I repeat for every veteran transitioning that I wish I would have known in August of 2007 when I got out, that the amount of opportunity that you have in your life to move your life forward is directly proportional to the amount of strangers that you're talking to on a daily basis. Because if you're not talking to new people every day, then you are not discovering new possibilities and new friendships and new just partnerships of, like, there's always probably some guy that you're going to run into that needs something that you do and you can help him solve a problem, but you can't even get to that unless you start talking to people. And that's that. I mean, if the Marine Corps would have taken me to a sales course or a conference and said, go into this building and sell something 100 times, doesn't matter whether you get a yes or a no, that training would have served me exponentially better, because I would have had a really strong muscle of talking to people, and then I just would have executed, because you can create anything almost if you start talking to enough people. And I've had so many amazing conversations. I've sat on airplanes next to Marine officers that I never would have known unless I said hello. It's crazy the amount of people that I've ran into and the serendipity of, like, well, this just happened and it was all because I said hello.
And that's a huge paradigm shift. We get taught don't talk to strangers. Now we got contactless deliveries and
Exactly.
whatnot. And we get told like do these other things. And then we turn 18 and they're like networking. All right, take the thing that you haven't done in 18 years and now turn it on. If you're outgoing like myself, paradigm shift. So so what would you say to someone that goes over and is locked into these, fuzzy handcuffs?
I think if you're locked in those fuzzy handcuffs, then, like, for me, the safest place is the best place to start. That it was the dads at the park, and the favorite question to open up, and it works everywhere where there's dads. How old are your kids? It's almost like a hack in the back door of their firewall, because almost they instantly will answer how old. It's something they don't even register as like an introduction question. So when you get the dad talking, because you can automatically start comparing kid stories when you get the ages, like, oh, mine are this, and you remember that, blah 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 blah. That just simple step. If you're a dad listening, that's the easiest way. If you're not a dad, I would just try to get yourself in as many uncomfortable situations where you can say hello, whatever it may be, whatever feels safe, that you really just need to get out. And there's so many other steps of self-help and self-realization that you can go through, but the one of the best is when actually someone reflects it back to you. And this happens in conversation. Like, when you're having a conversation, you'll start to recognize what people are enjoying about you and reflect it back. And you want to pay attention to those little breadcrumbs and add more energy to them, because those are the ones that make you unique. Those are the ones that, like, bring people closer to you when they see you, because your energy gets higher. And you can get that. You can get a lot of feedback of where you need to go when you start talking to people. On the other side, like if you're a person that gets triggered a lot, that's something that I often, like even parents, like as a dad, like it's easy that your kids will trigger you multiple times a day. But generally, those triggers say more about yourself than they do about the kid, that they just know how to exploit your weakness. So take your triggers and try to figure out why that triggers you and figure out a way to bring peace in that one area, because the more triggers that you can remove, the better you're able to have a lot of random conversations without worrying about getting offended, worrying about like backing off, because you're confident in who you are and you're not like retreating to some old story about yourself when those triggers happen.
Yeah, and that's huge. So now we're in this world that we could be potentially in this for a long time. Military, veterans, and first responders are getting longer time. CDC is doing things. Now states are doing this. So if I'm getting out of the service and I want to be a better dad, and now I'm in this virtual world, and like I said, I'm wearing these things, what would you recommend them now? Because you knew what you did back in the day. We don't have the parts anymore. So you can't go and say, finding a vet dad, let's go. And you just keep trumping parts. Kids are like, I'm tired. 5 more parts, kid. Just 5 more. Come on.
Yep. So one thing that I've noticed pop up a lot is there's been a lot of like, if you join dad Facebook groups, a lot of them are doing like nightly or Zoom meetups once a week. Like even those little ones, or even just like a lot of, even on meetup.com is converting a lot of their meetups that like the big massive, the ones that are like ran by a business almost, a lot of those are going virtual. So you just got to go to like meetup.com, look for Facebook events, look for Facebook groups that even in the military veteran dad Facebook group, I've been doing a weekly Zoom call on Sunday nights where we just get together and we talk and share the load. And or just call up an old friend. Like another easy step to try to do it in this new time frame is go on your text message list and go to the very bottom of the list and just start texting someone and say, hey, what's going on in your world? It doesn't have to be a face-to-face. But just the idea of, this is something I've really realized, and even just in the last couple of weeks, when I feel isolated, the one thing, almost a reactionary thing I'm starting to do now is I go into my Facebook Messenger, I go into my text messages, and I start sending messages. I send a message of appreciation in some cases of like, I'm updating, like I've seen these things in your life. It's really awesome what you're doing. Keep going. Because you never know when those messages hit on the other side, what that person's going through. And at least 3 people messaged me when I recently did that and said, that hit me on the exact day that I needed it. Thank you for that reminder that I'm awesome. Even something like that will make you feel like a better dad. And so a lot of it comes down to figure out ways to just stay outward. And if you stay inward and just like you feel that thought kick in, you feel those inner thoughts and you're just having this self conversation, that's when you need to know that you need to lean out and just give something freely, whether it be a text message, messenger, even just going in a Facebook group and helping people. Like that can be a little bit of where it, because dads like helping people. So when you exercise that muscle, you feel good about yourself. You're like, oh, I did something good today. I helped a dad out that was having a bad day.
No, and that's fantastic. I think we need to do that more often. Like I've been intentional for a long time just to grow business. So I connect with 10 to 15 people a day. But the thing is that we need to do that, not just in the boardroom. If we do that constantly in the boardroom, we can be successful there. But it's always, for me, in our focus, it's bedroom first, wife, and then it's living room. And sometimes you're not going to have all the answers. Like even me right now, if anybody asks me like how to parent a teen, I'm like, I can go to 12. That's it. So if I want to go more advanced, I got to go connect with those people that are there in other living rooms. So you're going, in a sense, visiting their living room virtually, either through text message, through a phone call, maybe through a mastermind or whatever it is. And you're just trying to glean. And then maybe you can then serve. And then you, again, like you said, flex that dad muscle. That's really cool. So my next question for you is this, is that, you know, as you transform from war hero to superhero, and I've already seen this transformation, and I'm not BSing you. So if anybody's on live, they can come and attest to me and they say, hey, you're floating him up. I'm like, nope, I've met the man, the myth, and the legend. He's here. That's why he's on the show. So what 3 tactics, superhero tactics, would you give to military vet dads to go over and to thrive? The 3 things that you wish you had in the moment before you went to the park, because it probably was a lot of lessons you learned from that park day to now. What's those 3 lessons you would give that next dad in that virtual park?
I would say it kind of comes that the first one is you want community. You need a tribe. That for millennia, men did life in tribes and women. Everybody shared the burden of life. And only in the last 200 did we start thinking we could do it alone. So know on the loneliest day that you feel, that's not how you were designed as a human being in your DNA to grow. And you need other men around you to grow. And that helps fill your cup up. And if your cup's filled, then you can show up in your family 10 times stronger. Like, don't go to your family with an empty cup, because when they start scraping the barrel, they're not going to get the best flavor of the coffee cup. And the second one would be like, I wish I would have learned how to turn the ego off, because the ego was what was keeping a lot of that manipulation of my personality try to fit in, because I didn't want people to see the scared little Ben Killoy inside that didn't feel like he belonged here. And that ego got in the way in so many conversations. And it's one of the very first things that you also need to turn off when you transition, because you're not that superhero with that uniform on. You're the exact person you are before you put that uniform on. And that ego is going to make you feel in a way that's important, but then it's going to hide all of different areas that you don't want people to see. And your ego is like a compass. Wherever you feel like your ego is the strongest, that's the area that you need to go diving into. That's the area that you need to investigate and figure out, what am I hiding in this shadow? Because your ego is like trying to hide your secret in the shadow, whether you know it or not. And the moment you bring whatever's there into the light, you find out, oh, I didn't die. I didn't explode, even though that's what you feel. And that's why your ego needs to fight it and protect it.
Yeah.
But that ego can get you into so much trouble. And third, recognize your priorities. That serving in the military is a noble sacrifice. It's something that everybody acknowledges and everybody's appreciative of. But at the same time, it's also a thing that allows you to manipulate your life. Like, you could easily tell your wife and call home and say, like, I'm going to miss dinner because work told me I needed to be there. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But if you're having trouble at home, you're going to keep using that excuse because you're thinking, oh, my wife's not going to call me out for this because it's noble that I have to serve my country. But you have to remember that the commitment to your wife is the one that you've made to the end of time. And every other commitment, military, even your kids, all of those are going to leave you. That those are just temporary seasons in your life. But the one that's going to go there all the way is your wife. And so recognizing kissing your wife first before you hug your kids, recognize that priority is important to display to your kids. Recognize that how you borrow time. So every time you're deploying, whether you're maybe TAD or you're overseas somewhere, you're borrowing time like a credit card from your family. Recognize when you come back, you need to pay it back with interest. And know that if you keep borrowing from it, it will go bankrupt. So that priority is so important to get to the bedroom part, because if you don't prioritize your marriage as the most important asset you have in your life, everything else is going to suffer. You won't win the boardroom because the priority at home isn't there. And whatever success you have in the boardroom, it's going to feel empty. You're going to chase it. You're going to get hooked on it. Your ego is going to tell you that's exactly what you want. But at the end of the day, you're still going to feel empty when you come home. And that's why you have to reprioritize your career. Every other commitment you have in your life is secondary to the one that you've made to the time you're called up by your maker.
Yeah. And the scary part is that we think that the war room and the boardroom have the same commitments to us. They don't. The war room will commit based on the enlistment, as long as you're medical and all these other things, and you meet these check blocks. It's objective. In the boardroom, it's subjective. And you go in there and you're like, I did everything right, and it's gone. I had a coworker shoot 12 people. I didn't do anything wrong. Job went away. Had a guy threaten me at work. I'm like, not going to go stay. Tried to sell vacuums. Couldn't sell enough. That type of different rooms. I went through 70 different boardrooms in a sense to go over to figure out where I really wanted to be when I grow up. And the thing is that sometimes they let you go. Sometimes it's situational. Sometimes it's like right now with coronavirus, a lot of people are like, hey, I want you here. We have no money. What am I going to do? So you need to be committed to the bedroom, because the bedroom's going to stay no matter what. And especially even when we isolate and quarantine, we still have the bedroom. And everybody thinks we still need to commit to the boardroom, So we need to outpour. And I agree with you in that regard. So that's pretty awesome. Those are like golden grenades. We should have took them in advance and populated them on the screen. So if you want to put them in the show notes, that would be great to go over and do that. And lastly, if someone's looking to have that transformational military vet dad experience, either through a mastermind or connect with you, I want you to tell us where we can go and find you. I'm going to populate your website on the screen. And but if you can tell us other places that we can go over and connect with you.
So Military Veteran Dad is the website. All the links to my podcast. I just published episode 70 of the podcast of interviews. And since January 1st, I've been dropping what I call Fatherhood Fridays, which is just me on the microphone, dropping my wisdom, my experience, and just sharing stories about my life. I've shared one about how I had almost PTSD from running and how I shouted at the top of my lungs that I was weak to my platoon sergeant that was giving us a run. I just dropped an episode and I dissected the Frozen franchise of the first one and the second one, and how every military dad has a journey of Elsa within that movie. So if you love Frozen, or if you've had to watch it 100 times like I have, check out that episode. I've heard everybody has liked it so far that they've said, and I've spot on, that every military dad can have a journey similar to Elsa's. And there's such a beautiful ending when you put all the pieces together. So that's my podcast is the primary thing. On Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me, is at Ben_Killoy. The podcast is also at Military Veteran Dad. And I offer freely friendship. I show up into other people's life as the friend that I wish I had in my life 5 years ago. I have my cell phone number at the top of my website. If you are feeling empty inside and you need someone to breathe some life into you, to validate who you are as a husband, a father, a veteran, give me a call, because like I said, you're not meant to do life alone. And if I can have a conversation and help leave a little bit of that burden from by sharing that load with you, I'm more than willing to do it. And it's something that I enjoy regularly.
That's awesome. And also, here's another caveat. So Ben is one of our 5 military veteran first responders that are interviewing. So he took the initiative. He's the Monday guy. We have the rest of them Tuesday through Friday. Ben has 72 hours, and you can help Ben out. So we started a show and we started a website. The website's getting up and rolling, but the show has started. War Hero to Superhero. You can find it on Easy Way Network. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on Roku. You can find it on all those places. If you want Ben to be one of our guests on our show and to up his game to 184 countries, 350 million people, and you really love what he's doing and you want to see him up his game, put a view on this. You can watch it on Facebook. You can watch it on our page. You can watch it on Ben's page. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Periscope. The views will get him to go over and get on our show. So each veteran has 72 hours to get as many views. It only takes 3 seconds to give him a view. You can sacrifice 3 seconds. So if you want Ben on there, just go over and put a view, 3 seconds, it will register, and then we'll decide who's going to be on our May show. So if you want to launch them to the next level, go over and do that. And again, we'll have our website up soon, but overall focus is connect with Ben if you're struggling. Don't wait until that empty part inside of you goes over and starts to die. When you start realizing it, go hit people up, because that's when you lose purpose and you lose belongingness. It's more than just losing the bedroom. You lose every room, and we don't want you to do that. So any last closing statements, Ben, before we close out?
One, I want to thank you for the offer, and thank you for allowing me to tell my story. I always love telling it. It's something I've exercised it so many times. I get excited about it because I know other people like what I have to say, and I know that it helps people. And that's from like an ego, like I love hearing myself talk, but more from like that story is helping move mountains for people. And second, one other Disney hack that if you want the shortest way, if you're like, Ben, yeah, that stuff was really good, but I don't feel like it's me. I want to prove this is possible with the movie Mary Poppins, that saving Mr. Banks is the thesis of Mary Poppins. And at the end, to save Mr. Banks, all he had to do was start flying a kite with his kids. And it can be as simple as that, to be present with your kids, to really step into your life as a dad, a father, and a husband. So at the end of the day, if you're stuck with what next to do, just go fly a kite. There you go. And with that, we're going to go fly off this broadcast and to give Ben back his time. And I'm going to go over and grow some more hair. I'm just kidding. But guys, it's thankful for you guys watching again. Always, we want this to be a dialogue. So put your comments in there before and after. I usually check every single comment. I'm pretty sure Ben's going to go check them also. So don't go over and wait to get help. And we'll see you guys tomorrow with another War Hero to Superhero. So thanks. You all have a good day.